This is Fam Electric Ghost doing live on the air with Brian Fitzgerald for the first time. Welcome to the Fam Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Phantom.
Well, we love to talk to people from around the world, but we'll get some business out of the way. We have a QR code up there, and that is for Podmatch. Podmatch is a tool we use to get guests and matches. It's like a Tinder for podcast guest and host, and matches guest and host, and that's how we got here today. So if you take your phone and scan that, you can check it out. If you're looking to get to be a guest on a podcast, if you're a podcaster looking for a guest, check it out. It's a cool tool. So that's our little pitch for that time. Before we get to the heart of your story, I ask every guest a couple questions. What motivates you and why do you do what you do?
All right, that's a good question. What motivates me? Honestly, doing something and filling the time in my day with things that I'm passionate about. Right, I'm passionate about art. I'm passionate about technology, and this new business venture is a combination of both those loves, both those interests, and that's what gets me out of bed in the morning and puts a smile on my face.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because technology is always it's always like it's a help and a hindrance at the same time, and you have to kind of balance it because the people are always complaining about the new thing. Just to give you a heads up, like I'm a musician and I'm an electronic musician, so I use synthesizers. Back in the day when Robert Moog created his first synthesizer, the purists from all the conservatories, they said, well, that's not a real instrument.
Yeah,
you shouldn't use that, right? But now up to this, people understand the Moog is a real instrument. But so like that's the same idea with like AI is a tool.
Yeah,
like there are things you can overuse something. Like you can overuse a DX7, you could overuse the Moog. Maybe you should use a guitar. It's a choice, and people will make you pay for it in the marketplace if you don't use it right.
Yeah, no, listen, and I get that comment about, art on a TV is not art.
Yeah,
right. It's a digital image, and I say, look, art is something that is visually beautiful. Right. And it can take on so many different forms. And if the delivery medium happens to be a TV, then so be it. The TV actually lets you do, things you can't do with traditional fine art. I mean, the fact that you can animate, I honestly, some of the art that I love the most, both creating and the art that is in the Liquid Canvas gallery is, hundreds of animations, whether it's, animated famous paintings or photographs or just, digital art that moves. And so, look, with any technology, to your point, there's things that it disrupts, and there's challenges to it. There's detractors and negatives to it. And then there's hopefully, if it's technology that sticks, it's the good outweighs the bad, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the whole idea. It's like they're always a purist, like, they're always going to want a canvas. They always want it in a gallery.
Yeah.
That's just the way they are. It's like there's always a canon.
Yeah.
Like you learn literature, there's always going to say Shakespeare is really is the thing, right?
Yeah.
If you deviate, if you go to the conservatory and you say, well, you don't want to learn Chopin and Bach, and you say, I want to do something else, I want to get into jazz, they'll be like looking at you like, no,
exactly.
That's not it. But that's like, well, that's your choice. That's your taste.
Well, think about it. For centuries, what passed as art, was figurative and very, realistic. And think about the artists in the early 20th century that established the modern art movement. Now we can't think of art without, I think, a good percentage of the population loving modern art.
Yeah,
but that was blasphemy.
Like Warhol and Picasso. Like Warhol was doing like Campbell's Soup.
Yeah,
and like the banana on the Velvet Underground album. As a little sticker comes off. It's like, but the thing is like the canon. Anybody that's in art, I always feel like it's it's like you're on this like a bell curve, and it's like people who are out there, they kind of push the cannon, and people. You think about Miles Davis, he was the bebop king
Yep.
within jazz,
Yeah.
and then when he went into fusion, everybody said, "Oh, that you're it's blasphemous." So like a lot of times, like the people are in the canon will challenge the canon,
Yeah.
and then
100%.
and then the people will say, "Well, that's not right." It's like, really, it's not right. So
Yeah.
like you're having like TV, like Liquid TV, Liquid Canvas Art. We have your URL up, and I've also got the QR code so people can real time go check what that looks like if they want to.
Yeah.
Um, what made you want to use the TV as the canvas?
Well, I'm a former serial tech entrepreneur, right? So, um, been in the tech space for a while, and I sold my business and I retired, and I'm an artist personally,
Mhm.
painter, mixed medium, acrylic, all that, and I was retired and I was painting more, and I moved into a new house, got a Samsung frame TV, and I was like, oh, this is cool, but the selection is pretty limited,
Right.
and it doesn't really, TV's a motion based medium, and it doesn't take advantage and include any kind of animated art. And so, I started experimenting um, and animating paintings and photographs, and uh, putting them on a USB stick, putting them into my TV. Friends came over for
And they love
parties and were like, "This is amazing. How do I get this?" And I was like, "Okay, I'm going to build a platform." And it took me 4 years to build the platform, but I've done it, and that's the origin story.
That's interesting because musicians, we've always kind of played with the projectors. Even going back to Warhol, like
Yeah,
with the Velvets, he used to have like these big screens up in his big happenings and have art projected on the screens. And I
yeah,
think Zappa did in his happenings with the Mothers of Invention. They did that. So these ideas have been out there, but now with the technology of using the digital TV to do it, now you have it like the level of resolution is so good compared to the old. I'm a child of the '70s. I'm like, even a Trinitron is like not what we have today.
yeah. Well, and the TV technology with has evolved, right? The with the invention and introduction of apps, and the ability to stream content, over the internet onto
Yeah,
your
app
TV.
like a phone, like a smartphone. Yeah,
Yeah, so that's really opened the door. I mean, one of the things that you can do with Liquid Canvas is upload your personal pictures and videos, put frames on them, mats, and I can connect to my mom's TV in Norway,
oh
and
wow.
I can push, you know, that family photo album onto her TV. And I mean, that's a function of the technology of both the TV itself, but the
And then
internet and the
yeah.
connectivity of all of it.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting because we're living in a world where, we're doing this podcast. Like, and I started podcasting back in 2016.
Yeah.
That being able to do video where like you couldn't do it. You would have to go to a TV studio, right, and do it. And so if you did it, it was you couldn't do like international calls. I talked to people all over the world
Yeah.
at a level of quality that people were like, "How the heck can you do that?" The tech
Yeah.
has gotten to a point where you can do all kinds of interesting things, and it kind of goes toward like the conversation of AI. Like
Yeah.
we talked about, AI is like a tool to me. In my day job, I'm a software guy, so I design software. I'm a business analyst, software engineer slash, but the tech is like you have to if you're in tech, you've been in tech, you exponentially the world changes all the time. It's just exponentially what the tools we use get better and better and better and better. And so we just take advantage of it. But sometimes people have argued that sometimes having less is more.
Yeah.
Like as an artist, you understand the idea like you have all this capability, but if you like if you stick to oil, then you have that frame. If you
Yeah.
stick to this, pastels, then you have that frame. If you're just doing, line drawing with a pencil, it's a different thing. So what's your take on that?
My take on that as it relates to the tech world.
Yeah, the tech and like what you're able to do with like the I guess the limitations to me sometimes is like I use analog synthesizers versus digital
Yeah.
because I like the sound of them, right? And I like the capability of tactile touching of them and what I can do with it. That's a
Yeah.
choice
No,
I make.
I mean, you know, from a creator standpoint, technology. And so this begins to blur the line between what are your technology tools that you're using to animate and be a creator in the art world, right? Whether
Mhm.
it's animations, and then it stepping in and blurring with this new world of AI. And, you know, where does the creativity start and stop in terms of AI art?
Yeah,
Um,
a prompt versus actually you're an artist, right? So if
yeah,
you're on the canvas, is a guy who's really good at prompt engineering the same as somebody who actually knows watercolors and oils?
yeah. I mean, I don't believe so, but that's the classic debate. Um, is Jackson Pollock as an artist, is he really an artist? When you compare it to a 16th century Caravaggio, where
Yeah.
like the level of detail and photorealistic quality of what he painted. And look, there's purists that be like, absolutely not. He sat in a barn and he splattered paint on a canvas. And but I mean, it'll be interesting to see how this all evolves with AI. Out of the 6,000 pieces of art that we have in the Liquid Canvas gallery, we only have about 30, 40 pieces that are AI.
Mhm.
I'm not a huge believer in it. Um,
Yeah.
for those reasons. I mean, I
Do
think
you
that,
think it could overrun though? Because sometimes, like on the net now, we have a lot of posts on social media that are being like it's like overrunning some of the platforms.
yeah,
Because once it gets in, sometimes it just cascades and escalates, and so the danger I get, I don't know about the danger, but my whole idea is like if you're a musician, right, you've got your 10,000 hours to learn how to play a bass
yeah,
or playing a piano. If somebody's like, there's a different technique versus a DJ. A DJ is going around and they can hear a groove
yep,
and they go into Ableton and they go into their DAW and they can figure out how to stitch that groove together like a producer or a recording engineer. But they're not Bootsy Collins. They're not
yeah,
Prince. They're not Eric
no,
Clapton. So it's a different sticker. And then they can create a piece of music and the customer might say, I like it. Or the consumer or the audience might like it, but it's a
yeah.
different thing.
Well, listen, you know, there are AI specific musical acts, musical artists that exist on Spotify that,
Yeah.
are garnering, millions of audio streams. And, you know, there's an argument that, well, why should there be a warning notice? Why do they have to identify themselves as, AI generated music, right? I mean, if you enjoy it, then the argument could be and is, then what difference does it make? I mean, you know, there's there's an actress right now that is,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, generated, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
AI generated and starring in things, and she's in demand, and there's talk about, you know, talent agents representing her and, negotiating for, her inclusion into projects. And so, I mean, it's scary, you
Yeah,
know.
I guess the argument could be, do you want tech companies to own intellectual property and to actually own the space?
Yeah.
Because the problem I think is artists are always been like starving, right? Artists have always like, you think about like William Blake was not
Yeah.
known in his own time.
Yeah.
If everybody feels like, well, I can't even try to be a William Blake, I will just let all this AI generated stuff, and they'll never even learn about meter. They'll never even learn about art. They'll never pick up a bass. They'll never pick up a paint. But that's what I worry about as an artist.
I I 100%
I
agree.
worry about that because if somebody just commoditizes it and turns it into a widget, and companies like to sell widgets, actuaries like to look at the balance sheet for widgets, but does it
100%.
have heart and soul and spirit? That's you could talk to some Japanese animators and they've kind of said like, we don't feel it has soul. We don't
Yep.
feel it has a spirit.
Yeah, no, I mean, um, one of the things that we're doing at Liquid Canvas is we have an artist partner program, right? And so we're reaching out and or accepting applications from whether it's photographers, fine artists, digital artists. And if their artwork is approved and it goes into the gallery, then they earn money based
That's
on
cool.
streams. So it's very much a Spotify artist model, right?
You're given a new gallery, a virtual gallery.
Yeah, but that's important to me, right? Because especially in the art world, being an artist myself, like the gatekeepers,
The gatekeeper gallery, yeah.
it's the gallerist and and the collectors, and it's such a highfalutin,
Yeah.
upper crust society crowd that um you know uh entry into that world is extremely difficult, right? And so if I can in one, in a small way, create a platform that democratizes that a
Yeah,
bit.
that's the democracy. I mean, that's the people have argued that, the DAW is the democratization of music, like they like the drum machine. You think about hip hop and the samplers,
Yep.
right? You think about a band like De La Soul or the Public Enemy or like any of the old hip hop groups.
Old Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah, when like there's a skill to using a sampler. It's not like Vanilla Ice. You take in Queen David Bowie song and you just put your lyrics over it, right? If you
Yeah.
look at what people actually used to really do on the MPCs
Yeah.
and on samplers, there's a craft to do, and you could say with the prompt engineering, there could be a craft that's equivalent to a DJ. To me, to
100%.
equivalent to the using the sampler. So I think you could artistically use that prompt engineering like a sampler. I think you could. It's just like, are you going to be lazy or are
Yep.
you going to have a vision?
I 100% agree. I mean,
So, so it's like that's why they're putting the label on it is it's AI generated or not might not be necessary when everybody realizes what they can do with the tools. Then you'll get the Beethoven, you'll get a Mozart, you'll get a Picasso. Oh, if you're using this tech,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah. No, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it is about creativity and originality. And to your point, look, if someone can use AI generative tools and, you know, the reference images they use, the prompting they use, if ultimately what it renders, what it produces is something that is original, unique, compelling, it story tells,
yeah,
then the consumer's going to like it. And if the consumer likes it, at the end of the day, that's art.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like if the audience likes it, then it doesn't matter. It's like the idea, like when people heard Dylan, he had people when he went electric. Like if some of the folkies didn't like it, but the
Yeah.
hippies did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, well, this group doesn't like it. So it's a law of attraction. Guess what? My tribe finds me. They like it. They go with it. These guys like they don't like it, but doesn't matter. Doesn't mean you can't put it into the world. Like it will just call to whoever feels it.
100%. And as an artist, you ultimately have to, decide, do you want your art to be niche and for it to have a small loyal following, or do you want to be commercial?
Mhm.
I mean, look at Taylor Swift. Her early work, it was, rooted in country,
Yeah,
right?
and then she changed.
And you know, and her vocality her tonation, all of it was country. And when she got into, a famous record label dispute with the owners of her recordings, and she wasn't able to buy them, she made the very smart decision to re-record everything. But when she re-recorded them, in order to make it more relevant and more commercial, she re-recorded those old songs with her new sort of pop tune.
Yeah, not her non-country voice. They're not going like she wasn't trying to do it like a Johnny Cash or Willie Nelson. She wasn't trying to evoke that Americana kind of country, which is country music, is like Americana, kind of like the band or Cash or Willie or any of that stuff. Not having that twang, like not doing that. And artists evolve. Well, I think artists. You look at the Beatles. I mean, Beatles were the first like boy band.
Yeah.
By the time you get to Abbey Road, they're the precursor of progressive rock and Pink Floyd's and all the progressive rockers, Yes, and all those bands use them as the model because they reinvented what they use a studio as a sound painting board.
Yeah.
So you can start somewhere and end up in a whole different place. Whether your audience follows you, that's their choice,
Absolutely.
But it's interesting to me, just in the arts, it's like the idea of disruption. You kind of started like you've been in tech, and there's all this big term about all these disruptors in tech.
Yep.
Everybody's a disruptor, and they want to shake the tree. So like is that? I mean, I think, but artists tend to do that anyway. I mean, that's the nature of art.
100%.
So was that like a synergy that you always had this kind of artistic disruptor kind of leaning of an artist disruptor mindset, or was it from a business point of view disruptor?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think that's initially 20 something years ago, that's what drew me to technology, right? As an artist, is I saw how tech was, the barrier to entry was low. There were no guardrails and boundaries and predetermined owners of the system, and you could be young and you could have an idea and you could be potentially great at execution, and you could come into whatever market and look at how things have been done and then find your niche. How are you going to disrupt that? How are you going to make it arguably better? So I got a question for you. I don't know. I'm new at this podcasting stuff, so I'm a bit of a newbie, and I pulled a rookie maneuver. I got my laptop, and my charging cable is
too far away.
So I need to grab my charging cable. I don't know if you can take literally 20 seconds to do a commercial of sorts while I grab that and plug it in.
That's fine. Like, I don't have a commercial ready, but I can talk about your QR code while you do that.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
So we have a QR code up there, and if you scan it, you can go to liquidcanvas.art. So you take your phone and you scan that. That URL that we have there, www.liquidcanvas.art, will be available immediately if you take your phone and scan it. We had a different QR code at the beginning that was for Podmatch, but this is actually for Brian's website. So we do recommend people actually use the QR code to learn more about the topics that we're talking about today as he comes back to the screen. But we do encourage people to do that. You will be able to click on that URL on the channels that we're on. We're live right now on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kick, and you'll be able to do that shortly. So now you're back. So I did a little bit of a promotion for your QR code, which I have up there for your liquidcanvas.art.
All right. I'm praying my computer doesn't die on me because I'm charging slower than I'm using electricity. So fingers crossed.
It's not going to pull one of those for you. Right? It seems stable right now, but you never know. Yeah, it's interesting, the whole disruptor thing, because, I always liked, like, bands that were, like the mothers of invention, like, the Dead,
Yeah.
uh, like, the Beatles, Yes, I like bands that were kinda pushing it, like early Genesis, like Peter Gabriel. It's like they just progressive rock to me and jazz and fusion jazz and punk, like, I like anybody that was kinda pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
Even Dylan, like I mentioned, like when he went electric, it was like, his crowd, when he went electric, somebody yelled like, "You're Judas," and he said, "I don't believe you," and he kept on going. And
Yeah.
and then it was like in '66. And then by the '70s, that electric style that was so under that people didn't understand it in '66 had become like the standard. Like the style that he had
Yeah.
invented became like a standard way of doing rock and roll.
Yeah.
And so, like, sometimes, like, you're on the cutting edge because your vision is ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And
No, listen, um, one of the things I really like, as I mentioned earlier, the artist partner program is me and my team's ability to like go out onto the internet, right? Into Instagram, find these, emerging artists and try to find people that are doing unique things.
yeah,
And um, and so that's what we've been doing. And for me, that's fun.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and
for
and
sure.
and my goal in doing things like this, the more we get the word out there, I'm hoping that, we start seeing an influx of applications and people saying, I've heard about you. This is what I do as an artist. I hope you like it. And, you know, so
I think
I'm,
it's real important to have, safe places or, get like having a space. 'Cause, like, if you're a young band and you have that, pizza shop that has, that allows the non-famous bands to play,
yeah,
or get these little, they used to have these venues that, you could have indie bands to show up. And you
yep,
could do it in like a CBGB's, but smaller than that,
yeah,
or like unknown bands. And so when you create these places, because there's so much art today, and if you the gallery system, or just like the old A&R system for musicians,
100%.
like it was such a gate, like you gotta get past all these guys.
Yep.
And
And
now it's like,
Spotify broke down that wall.
yeah, well, even the SoundClouds is where a lot of people, come up through the SoundClouds or the mixed clouds, or they have the mixtape club type of thing going on in the underground. So I started this podcast to talk to emerging singer-songwriters back,
Yeah.
6 years ago, and we've expanded to a lot of people who are just creative overall, but we still talk to emerging singer-songwriters all the time, and it's important to give that space because, the big guys, the A-listers, they have a space. The
Yeah.
B-listers have a space. He's like, you want to give other people a space.
100%. And look at it, it's not too different from the way you look at kind of the economy and the top 1%, the rich get richer. It's kind of the same thing in the art world, right?
Yeah.
In the acting world, in the arts in general. It's like once you've gotten past the gatekeeper and you're in,
Yeah,
it's
you're
real
set. You'll be
easy.
making movies, you'll be
Yeah.
getting record deals, you'll
Ri
be doing
rinsed
tours.
and rinsed and repeat. It's really easy to become super wealthy. But the hard part is, what are those venues, those platforms for emerging artists of whatever genre,
Yeah.
music, TV and film, art, fine art, you know. Um, so I'm happy and proud as an artist that this is a core function of what we're doing. And so that, yeah,
It's
the,
kinda like back in the day, like, you had the Rolling Stone magazines, you had, like, even these, like, in San Francisco, you had all these, like, newspaper reviews of artists, like, during the hippie era, during the
yeah,
'60s and the '70s, you had these, like, low distribution, like, this fanzines or papers that would review music, that would tell the public about some new band. and get that out to the people in a form. And newsprint was cheaper, and they could get it to the people, and people find out about it. And so now we people aren't reading as much anymore. So you need these so how much of like a critical review do you do for your work? Do you do critiques like online? Do you have like symposiums of like art critics for this type of genre, or do you just put it out there?
No, I put it out there because at the end of the day, the consumer, right? The consumer will determine what is, well, it's all art, but what is art that they like. And, I may have art, with 6,000 plus pieces. I may have art that, appeals to a very small group of people, but that's important. And then I have modern art and famous paintings and things that appeal to a very, wide, audience. Here's a great example. I looked at, I established and created an Indian art channel.
Oh, cool.
Within the platform. And, I looked at India and, I'm like, well, okay, there's, 1 billion plus people. There's hundreds of millions of smart TVs. The only programming they really have is soap operas and cricket. And so I'm like, well, that tells me that the TV's sitting,
it's there. You got access.
It's there. It's off. And if I can allow them to have, traditional Indian cultural art, which I know they're heavily into, then, that's a niche that I don't see anyone filling. And if I can
in that market, you could dominate, like if it kicks in, because
100%.
I think it's real important to think about that, like the channels, because there's so much art, right? And it's cultural. I lived in Japan for a while, and my daughter is like, she went to kindergarten and preschool in Japan, and she's an artist. So her whole art style is kind of heavily Shinto influenced.
Yeah.
So like if people find her art today and it's like, well, how did you get to this?
Yeah.
Well, because she grew up in Japan.
100%.
So then you have these it depends on culturally where you are and like how you get your aesthetic develops.
1,000%. And the beauty with the TV and the beauty with the internet, and you marry the two, is, liquid canvas is accessible anywhere in the world. And so, we have a small but growing anime channel, right? Mm-hmm. We have something I'd never heard of before, lo-fi art. It's
a new thing.
It's sort of derivative of anime, but it's its own little niche. And my attitude is I want art for all, right? I want to have 200 channels, and if there's 10,000 people in the world that love this small little style, great. I want some of that art.
Yeah, because like graphic novels are really big, anime is big, like web comics, like short form comics 100%. Are really big, back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have street art, like
street art.
Graffiti. I would love to build
street art would be to have a street channel would be good.
I mean, I would love that.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, our goal with the platform is it's rooted in art primarily, but we're treating the TV as a canvas, and it's like I want to try to change consumer behavior. That look, when you're watching your TV and you're on Netflix and you're on Hulu, when you're done, you turn off the TV. The behavior I want to change is when you're done, turn on liquid canvas. And whether
TV like a canvas,
yeah. And so whether it's a self-curated playlist of art you love, whether it's family photos, we're actually entering right now. We're doing dog programming, cat programming.
Oh, for people that are into like pet niches, yeah.
Well, no, for people. So like audio, video content specifically designed for, let's say, dogs, so that
for the dog.
when your dog, and so it's funny, this exists. There's 3 or 4 companies that this is all they do is.
Oh, they do that. Yeah. If they heard.
And so when you leave the home and your dog gets anxious, you put this
on TV.
You put it on the TV.
Your cat TV, your cat can watch the cat TV. Yeah.
100%. And right now, a big segment of the audience, does this. And what they do is they root around on YouTube and they find something kind of relevant and they stream it to their TV. Well, our hope is with Liquid Canvas, look, you can play with a bunch of different videos, see which ones your dogs best react to, create a playlist, and then it's just easy. It's there.
You just create. Well, yeah, because the people are doing that already on like YouTube and stuff. They're already, people, some people are tired of watching a show and all they do is watch like cooking street food, or they watch street food all day.
Yep.
They watch they watch somebody like, I want to see houses, or I want to see the forest. So all they see is different forests all over the world. And then they just watch that all day. So if you get people that's like, hey, I want to see like somebody doing really interesting digital art, or I want to see somebody doing these, putting their canvases up in a gallery. So, because, I don't have time to go to the art gallery and I'm interested in different types of genres. So you have by genre, like people can pick a channel and say, hey, I want to look at this.
I mean,
or I want to look at that. Right.
There's so many applications for it because, so like, as an example, I'm meeting with a museum tomorrow and I've given them the pitch. They like it. I'm saying, promote Liquid Canvas to your members. In advance of upcoming exhibits, they do for members like video curation, the curator notes by video, right?
Oh, wow.
They send you images of like, this is the installation, this is what's happening. And they send that out. And I'm like, well, if it was all on a channel and you could put it up on your TV and you could see, oh, there's an upcoming exhibit at MoMA and this is what it's going to be on. You can enjoy it. You can become emotionally engaged with it. You're far more likely to want to go in and see it in person. And so it's a way to kind of engage your membership. And so, I mean, we're trying to find a lot of different ways.
That's a cool thing because you think about it, like, with the QR codes today, you could do that and say, hey, if you're interested, get the QR code, get a ticket. So you come to the gallery, you got your ticket already. It's like, oh, this gallery interests me. I'm going to get the ticket. Oh, the QR code's there right there. Boom, I can just boom my smartphone. Yep. I got the ticket and I'm scheduling it. I'm going to go to a gallery show. Yeah. And I got it. And I found, and then somebody can say, hey, I'm going to look at all these different galleries. And this guy showed me what they have. Now I can go and like, oh, I'm interested in that. Yeah. Now I'm going to go. I mean, he can opportunities knock.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah. It's interesting because the world is people are so into not watching regular TV. They're all, in this new kind of ether.
Yeah.
And they're finding things like they don't want to sit and watch All the Family anymore. They don't want to sit and watch the news off the regular TV. They're looking for other things. Well, they're looking for like not even on their Xbox. It's like, what else can I do besides play my Xbox? I want to do something else.
Well, people want choice. Fragmentation is what has driven, a lot of disruption. I mean, if you look at the early days of TV, you had 3 broadcast channels, right? They had, on Nielsen, they had a huge, as cable evolved, it was like, oh, okay, well, now I have the ability to have, G4 Gamer TV, and I have all these, cooking channel. And what happened is you saw that, the ratings, the advertising revenue, and everything that traditionally was associated with the dominant players, ABC, NBC, CBS, that, their business was significantly cut into. And then fast forward into the world of streaming.
Yeah, now the TV shows are gone. Like the networks used to have, like, we got the sitcoms, we've got the TV shows, and then the streaming took that away from them because now they've got the TV shows and they're putting them out quicker than then they will make you wait for the new season.
Well, you
Now
know what
on the streamers, like now you don't have to wait.
yeah. Well, you know what they learned? The early fear within the TV world was, well, that fragmentation is going to splinter demand. And so, people are only going to consume so much TV. And if we splinter and fragment it, well, no one's going to survive. But the reality was actually, when you gave people more choices, they consumed more TV.
Yeah, they're just not watching you. They might not be watching your network. They're watching other networks. They're watching all the streaming networks, and they're watching them when they want to. Because you were tying them, you got to be there at 7:30. You got to be there at 8:30. And even now, you can actually save it. But people are still kind of locked into that with the networks. It's like, no, you guys don't really make them like the way these streamers do.
Yep.
And the streamers like, hey, I can binge watch the whole thing. So it's kind of catering. Like I watch a lot of Korean dramas because I was in Asia and I got really hooked on K drama and J dramas and like Chinese dramas and Taiwanese dramas. So I spend a lot of time just watching those because I just like them. I mean, I just got into the aesthetic, so I just end up watching a lot of stuff there because I don't see those type of stories on US TV. So I'm like, I like those stories. But I got a niche. I like it, and I can go to the niche. Outside of like Korea, I'm watching it.
100%. And, and technology's allowed those people that either had been exposed to it but couldn't find it or had never been exposed to Asian drama, Asian televised programming. Now, you can be in America, you can have never visited Japan, and you can, stumble upon this and be like, this is an aesthetic I like, and I want to watch this, and I'm going to become an avid consumer of this. So, I mean, that's an example of how, technology yet again democratized.
It totally got rid of the national boundary.
Totally.
Because like it used to be like the American comic book industry, like Marvel and DC and Charlton, they controlled the like comic book market. But now, like manga outsells all the major American comic companies.
Yeah,
I mean, Marvel does good with the movies, but if you look at their books, they're getting blown out. DC and Marvel get blown out by the manga companies in Tokyo.
100%. Yeah, no.
And it just became suddenly that became accessible. Kids started watching the animes, and then they actually like go to the bookstore and they're buying the mangas. 100%. And so the TV or the streaming, brought them to the book, and they're actually picking up the book.
100%. I mean, and you look at even theatrical film distribution, right? And there used to be, windows where, movies were released US theatrically. They didn't make it to Europe or Asia for a couple of years. And it was I used to work in that industry, and it was funny. You'd see like actors that no longer carried US theatrical box office weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
A Stallone, a Dolph Lundgren, and they still could green light, independent films that were produced and, exclusively, for the purpose of distributing into those foreign markets, but with technology, what arrived was day and date release. So there was no more windows. It was, hey, this is being released on June 1 and it's being released everywhere in the world.
Everywhere, yeah. So no longer have these markets like they're tied to, you do. It's weird on video games though. You still have some things that are like Japan only games, where they've decided like this is only Japanese market. Though people always try to go get those. Like the people who are crazy gamers, like I want the Japanese only. I'll read the Japanese. I'll listen to the Japanese. I don't care. And so, but there's still some gates on certain things. But a lot of things are like gateless. They just happen. It's not region specific. These very region specific stuff.
And it's even interesting to see on, televised programming. There's certain services like Netflix, where when a series comes out, the whole season dropped,
Yes,
and you binge it. And the consumer loves it, right? And
I have to binge watch. People they don't want to have to sit there and have to, like, they'll wait. Like sometimes when they come out, if they send them, if they won't put them all out, some people won't watch it until all the episodes are available.
Yep.
And so they put their first show out, and until they say all 12 are there, there's some folks that won't watch it till all 12 are there.
Well, and that's a function of platforms like Netflix that have a constant stream of new content. They're not worried. They know that the consumer, if they like it, they want to binge it, and they're not worried about keeping that consumer engaged, because they're like, we got 15 more things coming out this week. Yeah. Whereas you look at these other platforms, whether it's HBO Max, whether it's Peacock, Paramount, they have great shows, but they don't want to release it all at once, because they want to string you along.
So like an old TV channel.
Yeah. Because honestly,
operate like the old TV.
They don't come out with stuff new. They don't come out with enough new stuff often
to justify
enough that if I knew that they dropped, Tulsa King, Landman, and Mayor of Kingstown all in 1 week, I'd be done.
You'd be done, and you're not going to watch them anymore.
And I would unsubscribe to my membership for Paramount Plus. Right.
Yeah, you don't want to watch all the Star Trek. Like they gotta string you along for all the Star Trek shows,
100%.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it's super cool to have platforms for emerging artists, and to allow people to kind of just, figure out what they like. And that's why I was always, as a music fan, I wasn't like a niche guy. One day I'm listening to the Velvets, next time I'm listening to Sex Pistols, I'm listening to Sun Ra, I'm listening to Coltrane, I'm listening to Johnny Cash. I was like, anything that was good, I would listen to. But the market tried to say, like, you're only a rock guy, you're only a soul guy, you're only a funk guy. They still treated like the listeners like the only thing they like is this one thing. Like, that's not what people like.
No, listen, I look at, by account, I can look at the art collections and the categories of art that are consumed. And, sure, there's a percentage of people that are simple in their tastes, and they know what they like. And, it's, landscape famous paintings, right?
Yeah,
and, but there is a large portion of the subscriber base, and growing that, which is how I want them to use the platform. It's, create different playlists, have 15 and have them fit different moods. And if you're in the mood for music themed art, right? Like, throw it up there. If you want something calming and relaxing, if you want, old historical masterpieces by Van Gogh.
Yeah.
To me, it's more interesting, and it's more important that people learn to broaden their,
like art history
their palette, right? Like their palette should be, I want their palette for art to be the way especially the American consumer, but the way television consumers taste in TV has evolved, and it's so broad.
Yeah, it's not what it used to be, because it's like, are you just a burger and fry type of person, or are you willing to go to that street truck? And a lot of people today, they're looking for the street truck, right? They're looking for like street tacos. They're looking for something different.
Yep.
Man, they ain't going to the franchise donut shop. They're going to that local shop that does like the maple bacon handmade donut. They like that. They're looking for somebody. It's like, I'll go out of my way for a donut shop. It's like, if I know there's a donut shop that's somewhere that's really good, I will drive to go to it.
Totally. It's funny. I'm going to, sort of from a headline perspective, I'm going to touch on a very touchy topic right now, immigration, but
Mm.
only from the standpoint of, if you look at every major city, whether it's London, whether it's New York, LA, whatever, when you have a healthy immigrant population, what
Yeah.
do? They bring their cuisine with them,
And their food. Yeah.
right? And all of a sudden, it over time completely changes how people, that never were exposed to Indian, Vietnamese, Thai, Korean, all of a sudden, people's palates, change. They diversify. And I think, on some level, liquid canvas and our ability to have these channels with so many different styles of art,
Yeah.
using technology, it's unrestricted art immigration, right? It's like,
Yeah. Well, I
here it
think that's
is.
super important, because I think people get bored. Like, if you just keep giving people like the in the box type of
Yep.
thing, like it's like you could go to that franchise and get that burger and fries every day, because you're like, oh, I'm just used to. I'm just like, but when you find out that, oh, that street taco, or that Thai restaurant, or this, like, restaurant from like this, like African or West Indian, restaurant. Hey, this stuff tastes good. This flying fish is like, oh my god, I never had that.
Well,
It's like, what
and
the heck? It's like, why would I go get that burger or fries every day if I can have that?
and guess what? Fragmentation and the fear of pulling consumers away from established pillars of consumption, right? Of product, that creates competition. So, I mean, I'd argue, when there weren't a lot of choices and the American burger was pretty bland, and as other choices came in and it fragmented, I mean, now I look at, if I am going to eat a burger, guess
Yeah.
what? The people have had to step up their game, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
a
Like,
smash burger with,
the local burger joint. Like, that's what I mean. Like, if I'm not going to go to the franchise, like, I'm in New Hampshire, and there's tons of diners,
yep,
and all the diners have way better food than any of the franchises.
yeah,
So I'm always going to. It's like, I'm going to go to the diner. I'll spend more money at the diner. Like,
yeah,
the diner is just so much superior, that it's like, it's only if, like, for convenience sake, if I don't have time, I
yeah.
might go to the other one. But if I've got time, I'm going to the other
Well,
place.
I mean, look at, it's in every industry, right? I mean, if you even look at the beer industry, back in the day when there was four choices, right?
Yeah.
Just like when there was four television stations, the quality of the programming, the quality of the beer, Coors is not great.
People want
Bud
the
is,
microbrew. Everybody
but
wants that microbrew. They're looking for that microbrew. They're looking for
and
that.
then the
That's it.
microbrew industry took off, and guess what? It forced the big guys to have to adapt and improve on their recipes and improve on how they marketed, and not take the consumer for granted, and be like, you know what? I got to deliver a better product.
Yeah, you gotta step up your game, because what happens is, like, all these other not outside the franchise, all these independent operators, they're putting their vision, their passion. They're very passionate, because they're entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs are very passionate about what they do, so they're not kind of phoning it in. So when
100%.
people can know when something's not phoned in, and they appreciate it.
100%. People want something that feels authentic. There's a vulnerability to it. There's some passion behind it. And hopefully, in my small world of what I'm trying to do, um, there's that pathos that I'm bringing as an entrepreneur and an artist, and I'm hoping that resonates with people.
Well, I think it's great to have that space, because my daughter, she has like a disabled space for disabled artists. She does like a virtual gallery for disabled artists, and
Got
she
it.
does these campaigns for people with disability issues, artists that can't get into the gallery because they're disabled.
Yeah.
So she does that her own thing in that way. So this is really cool, because this gives people another space. Like you said, the gatekeepers, they block a lot of people, or people feel like they can't even do anything. because they got to get past that gatekeeper.
Yep.
But like now that you've got this platform, I just want to encourage people to take the QR code that we have up there now, and that's liquidcanvas.art. So if people click on that, what do they find when they come in?
Well, when they come into the website, it's a traditional website, right? That explains what Liquid Canvas is, how it works, all the different, products within it. But at the end of the day, it's super simple. If you go to the Apple Store, you go to the Google Play Store on your phone, and you type in Liquid Canvas and you download that mobile app, it will run you through a whole sign-up process and get you connected to your TV. And then, once you subscribe, and it's cheap. It's $3 to $5 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's so much you can do with it. Like I said, once you're subscribed, you can curate custom playlists. AI recommends based on what you've liked, what you've added to your playlists. It really is trying to be the Spotify of art for TVs, plus more.
Now, like you've mentioned, like TV, like the big TV is the primary platform that you're kind of encouraging people to do this. Would people still be able to use like an iPad or a smartphone? Is it really optimized for TVs?
It's really optimized for TVs. Yeah.
Okay. Just let people know so they understand it. Because some folks is like, oh, everything should be on the phone. It's like not everything needs to be on the phone. Because the smartphone is like everybody has them so much. It's like am I gonna watch a Netflix on my phone? Or I got this big TV.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send it to the big TV because I'm like, I want to see a movie on a big screen.
Well,
so I think it's like that idea, to me.
Yeah. We are, it's more difficult for Apple, but for Android, in the coming months, we are going to launch a product so that, when your phone goes to sleep, instead of, the wallpaper of a family photo,
you could do that.
You could have rotating art that you curated, play as your wallpaper.
Oh, that's cool. So you do the smartphone you'll have that entry into that. But for me, like when you watch a movie, if I want to see a big like sci-fi movie like Dune or Star Wars, it's like I'm not watching on the phone.
Yeah.
It's like that's not what I'm doing. But I want to thank you for being here today. And recommend everybody check that QR code. But if you're somebody that doesn't like the QR codes, that URL that we have up at liquidcanvas.art is clickable on the platforms we're on. We've been live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kick. We will be on all the other platforms that podcast can be listened to with a landing page provided to you and your audience by end of day tomorrow.
Awesome.
I want to thank you for being on the show.
All right, Phantom, really appreciate it. Loved our conversation and hope we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a good
Thanks.
night.
All right.